So for today, we're moving on to Unit 3, and Unit 3 is dealing with, if you look at the heading, is dealing with something called parallel lines and transversals. So what we're going to look at is what do I mean specifically about parallel lines and transversals. So let's go and look at this example right here. So on this, I have two parallel lines. It says M and N are parallel. That's what these two lines mean. So line M and line N are parallel to each other. And then there is line T that is going through that, and that is known as my transversal. So transversal basically cuts through both of the parallel lines. So again, M and N are my parallel lines. They're never going to touch. My transversal is the line that is going through both of those, okay? And so what's going to happen is whenever you have two parallel lines and you have a transversal, there are angle relationships that happen between all of these that's going to allow you to remember definitions that's going to help you to end up solving the math behind it, okay? So let's go ahead and look at this. I'm going to go ahead and point out, the different angle relationships that happen between these parallel lines and these transversals. So here we go. So the first thing we're going to look at is specifically the angle relationships, the example of that, and then if they're congruent or supplementary. So let's go ahead and go with that. So the first thing I'm looking at is specifically what does it mean whenever I say alternate interior, okay? So right now when I say alternate, that means opposite sides of your transversal. So I have this transversal going through it. I'm talking about the angles that are on opposite sides of that transversal to each other. So right now, B and A, C and D, F and E, G and H, all of these are on one side, all of these are on the other side. So those are alternate to each other, meaning on opposite sides of that transversal, okay? Interior and exterior is pertaining to those parallel lines. So right now I have M and N, all of the angles on the outside of those are exterior, all the angles on the inside of that are interior. So I'm basically going to combine those, and those are going to end up being a relationship that's going to help me to solve some problems here in the future. So first thing, alternate interior. Remember, alternate means opposite sides. Interior means inside the parallel lines. So alternate, I'm going to look at all the interior angles right now. So let's go ahead and just look at angle C right here. I'm looking at angle C. So angle C right now is going to be alternate to D and E because those are also interior, okay? But what I'm looking at is C and D are going to be something different here in a second, but C is going to be alternate interior to E here. So right now, the example of that angle pair, C and E, are going to be alternate interior to each other. So angle C and angle E are alternate interior to each other. So now the other interior angles, I have D and, looks like D and F. So D here, opposite side is alternate, interior to that is going to be F. So D and F are alternate interior to each other. So D and F are alternate interior to each other. So right now if you look, it looks like D and F are congruent and C and E are congruent. Congruent means equal. Congruent means the same. So alternate interior angles are going to be congruent to each other. So I'm going to put the word congruent here. They're going to be equal. Okay? The next thing we're going to look at is what specifically does alternate exterior mean? Alternate exterior, remember, alternate opposite sides of your transversal. Exterior means the outside of the parallel lines. So here are my parallel lines. I'm looking at the angles outside of that. So let's just go ahead and look at angle G down here. So right now, alternate of that is going to be H and A, but G and H are going to be something different here in a little bit. Alternate of that exterior is going to be A. So G and A are alternate exterior angles. So G and A. Okay, so let me change my color. Now we're going to look at H here. So right now, alternate of H are going to be these angles over here, but the one that is alternate exterior is going to be B up here. So H and B are alternate exterior. And just like the alternate interior, these are going to be congruent to each other as well. So H and B look congruent, A and G look congruent. So those are going to be congruent angles. Okay? So the next thing I'm going to look at is something called a linear pair. So the key word inside linear pair is line. They form a straight line. So that makes them a linear pair. They make a line. Okay? So right now, if I look at angle G down here, we're just going to analyze angle G. The angles that make a straight line with that. So if I look right here, I have a straight line going across. The two angles that are forming this line are going to be G and H. So G and H are a linear pair. So G and H are a linear pair. Also, if you look, I have a straight line going up and down right here. So that means F and G also make a linear pair because they form a straight line. So F and G are going to be a linear pair. Okay? Let's go ahead and do one more example on that. So I'm going to go up to the top one and look at it. So now let's just go ahead and look at angle C here. So I have angle C. Okay? So if I see I have a straight line going across right here, so C and D are the angles that actually form that angle. So those two angles are going to be a linear pair. So C and D. Also with C, I have a straight line with my transversal. So C and B right here also form that line. So C and B are also going to be a linear pair. Okay? And there's more linear pairs, but those are just some examples of those. So linear pairs form a straight line, and if you remember from Unit 1, straight lines are going to be 180 degrees. So that means those angles are going to be supplementary. Linear pairs are supplementary, meaning they add up to 180 degrees. Okay? All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is what do I mean by vertical angles? Whenever I say vertical angles, I mean straight across the angle from each other, okay? So right now, if I have angle G right now, straight across from G is going to be E. Those are going to be vertical, straight across from each other. So G and E are going to be vertical angles, okay? So let's go look at angle H right here. Angle H is straight across from F here. So H and F are going to be vertical angles, okay? So now let's look at top real quick. So right now, if I look at angle C, straight across from C across the angle is going to be A. So that means C and A are going to be vertical angles. And then lastly, I have, let me get a green color. I have D here. Straight across from D is going to be B. So those are going to be vertical angles. So B and D are going to be vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent to each other. Look, they look the same. They're going to be straight across from each other. Because if I end up crossing two X's and I end up moving, this angle up top and this angle down low are always staying the same when I end up crossing those. Okay? So vertical angles are congruent. Okay? Next thing we're going to talk about is corresponding. Whenever you see the word corresponding, I want you to think in the same spot. So if I was to actually take both of these and split them up into two different X's or two different crossing sections, the angles that are in the same spot are corresponding to each other. So like right now, if I was to take these two lines and I was to split them up. So if I was to take this section up here to make it into its own section, and I was to take this section down here and make it to its own section. And I was to actually label these 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So 1 and 1 are in the top left-hand corner. 2 and 2 are in the top right-hand corner. 3 and 3 are in the bottom left-hand corner. And 4 and 4 are in the right-hand corner. So now instead of those being labeled numbers, they're actually letters. So let's go and look at these corresponding angles. So right now, looking at angle B here. Angle B is in the top left of that section. So now looking down here at this cross section, the top left is going to be angle F. So B and F are going to be corresponding to each other. So B and F are corresponding to each other. Okay? So now looking at angle G here. G is in the bottom left. Up on the top cross section, the bottom left is going to be C. So G and C are corresponding to each other. Okay? So now let's look at angle H. Angle H is in the bottom right. Up top, bottom right is going to be angle D. So H and D are corresponding. And then lastly, up in the top right-hand corner, we have angle A. Angle A is in the top right. Down here, angle E is in the top right. So A and E are corresponding. So in this instance, corresponding angles are going to be congruent to each other. Okay, congruent means equal to each other. Okay. All right, so now earlier we had alternate. Alternate means they're on opposite sides of your transversal. And so now, whenever I say same side, that means they're going to be on the same side of the transversal. It's very easy, okay? So now let's go and look at same side interior. Same side means on the same side of the transversal. Interior means inside the parallel lines. So let's go and look at angle D right now, okay? So angle D, the angles that are on the same side of D are A, E, and H, but the only angle that is also interior to angle D is going to be E. So D and E are going to be same side interior, okay? The only other two angles that are same side interior, C, same side as C is F and is interior. So C and F are going to be interior, same side, okay? Same side interior angles are going to be supplementary. And the thing I want you to think about, same side are supplementary, SSS. Same side supplementary, same side sup. So those are going to be supplementary, meaning they add up to 180 degrees, okay? So now same thing, just like the interior angles, we are now doing same side exterior. Exterior means outside the parallel lines. So same side exterior angles are on the same side and they're exterior. So on this side of my transversal, the two angles that are on the same side and exterior are A and H. And the other two that are on the other side of my transversal are going to be B and G. They are same side exterior angles. So B and G are same side exterior angles. And again, same side exterior angles are going to be supplementary. So I understand this is a lot of definitions, but once when you put them into play, they're easy to remember, okay? So let's go and look at these examples, okay? On example number 1, it says, identify the angle pairs below, okay? So right now, let me zoom up. Let me zoom in a little bit. Come on. There we go. All right. So right now, it looks like I have M and N right here. Okay, so again, I have my two parallel lines, M and N, and then I have my transversal T going through those, okay? So right now, angle M and angle N are on the same side, but they're not interior or exterior. This is an exterior angle and this is an interior angle. But what you look at here is these two angles form a straight line. So M and N are going to be a linear pair, which up in your definition, linear pairs form a straight line, meaning they're going to be supplementary. They're going to add up to 180 degrees. So M and N are going to be a linear pair because they form a straight line, okay? Now looking at J and K are going to be opposite of each other. So looking at your definition, when two angles are opposites of each other like this, they're going to be vertical angles. So J and K are called vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent, meaning they're equal to each other. They're vertical angles, okay? All right, so now let's look at example number 2. On example number 2, it says label the angle relationships on the parallel lines below, put triangles on any alternate exterior angles, put squares on corresponding angles, put circles on linear pairs, put stars on the same side interior angles. All right, so let's go and do this. I'm gonna do this in different colors. So let's go with black first. Triangles on any alternate exterior angles. So my exterior angles are the ones on the outside, right? So exterior, 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 and exterior. So I'm gonna go and put a triangle right here. So right now, alternate exterior to that is going to be alternate, meaning on opposite side of the transversal, and also exterior to that. So this is going to be your alternate exterior angle, okay? Let me go and change my triangle color here, make it yellow. So if I put a triangle right here, alternate exterior to that is gonna be on the opposite side, and exterior is gonna be this angle down here, okay? All right, so now next thing it tells me to do is it says to put squares on corresponding angles, okay? So if I drew a square right here, terrible square, this is in the top left-hand corner. So down here on this cross section, top left-hand corner is going to be a square right here. Those are corresponding, meaning in the same spot, okay? So if I put a square down here, this is bottom left. Up here, bottom left is gonna be this angle right here. That's corresponding to each other, okay? If I put a square right here on this bottom right one, bottom right to this up here is going to be corresponding to that angle down there, okay? And then lastly, let me go ahead and do a red. If I put a square up top right here, top right, these are corresponding to each other. So those are all corresponding angles, okay? The next thing I'm gonna look at, it says to put circles on each linear pair. Ooh, this one's gonna be tricky because linear pairs form a straight line, okay? So right now, I'm gonna go ahead and just look at this. So right now, these two angles form a straight line. So let me go ahead and pick a different color here. Boom, okay. So if I put a circle right here, these two angles right here form a straight line, so these two are gonna be a linear pair. These two form a straight line, so these two are gonna be a linear pair, okay? Which in return makes these two a linear pair and these two a linear pair, so that means these are gonna be a linear pair as well, okay? Linear pair means forms a straight line, okay? Next, I have these two angles right here. They're gonna form a linear pair. These two angles right here, they form a straight line, so they're gonna be a linear pair, which makes these two angles right here form a linear pair as well because they form a straight line. So all four of those end up crossing by each other, are gonna be a linear pair to each other. And lastly, it says put stars on same side interior angles. So I'm gonna do gold here, and I'm gonna put stars. So right now, interior angles are gonna be these four angles because they're inside the parallel lines, okay? So same side means on the same side of my interior, or my transversal. So if I drew a star right here, same side interior to that is going to be this angle right here, okay? Let's get a different color. Let's go ahead and do like a pink. So right here, if I drew a star right here, this angle is gonna be same side interior to this. So ladies and gentlemen, by definitions, these are gonna be all of your angle pairs that you're going to be dealing with parallel lines and transversals. So now you're going to head over to Schoology and you are going to do a detailed city map, and you're going to label basically all these and make a city map.